Have you ever wondered what your family would do if you were helpless, bedridden, and powerless? Would they truly care or quietly start dividing your estate? This exact question haunted the mind of Horace Langston, a man whose name alone could shake financial markets. At 78, Horace had everything: a fleet of luxury cars, private jets, a media empire, and estates that stretched across continents. But that night, under the dim light of his reading lamp, in a sprawling mansion that felt more like a museum than a home, Horace stared at a framed photo of his wife and children and felt nothing but silence. "Do they love me?" he whispered. Not just love born of convenience or legacy, but the raw, uncomfortable, inconvenient kind, the kind that holds your hand when you're coughing blood, that lifts you up when you're too weak to rise. That kind. So he made a decision, one that would upend his entire household. Horace picked up the phone and called two men he trusted more than his own family: Mr. Elias Dorsey, his longtime lawyer, and Dr. Julian Marks, his personal physician and friend. By the next morning, the plan was already in motion. Horace sat calmly in his private study, a leather-bound journal on his lap and his cane leaning beside him. "I want to fake a terminal illness," he said bluntly. "I want to see who cares, who truly stays." Dr. Julian raised an eyebrow but nodded. "I'll run the tests. I'll tell them it's stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live. It's believable." Elias leaned forward, clasping his hands. "Then let me protect your assets. I'll shift half your wealth into an offshore trust under a different name. If anyone's pretending, they won't find the jackpot." Horace's lips curled into a tired smile. "Good." And just like that, the game began. The next morning, the Langston mansion changed. Horace coughed violently at breakfast. By noon, he was refusing food. By sunset, he was curled in bed, eyes glazed and hands trembling. Within hours, Dr. Julian had examined him in front of the entire family. "I'm afraid it's very serious," he announced gravely. "Horace has advanced cancer. 6 months at best." Gasps echoed through the high-ceilinged hall. 6 months? His wife, Lorraine, whispered, gripping the armrest of the velvet chair. "No, this isn't real!" cried out Bianca, his youngest daughter. Even his sons, Derek and Malcolm, looked pale. Derek turned away, wiping his eyes. Malcolm sank into the couch, stunned. In those first days, the Langstons rallied. Lorraine stayed by his bed, feeding him spoonfuls of soup. Derek brought in a nutritionist. Bianca read psalms by his side. Malcolm even skipped a golf tournament to be around. But just like a trending hashtag, the attention began to fade. By week 2, Lorraine stopped visiting his room. I can't watch him like that," she told the maids, applying her ruby lipstick in the mirror. "It messes with my spirit." Derek said he had meetings in Tokyo. Bianca was too emotionally drained to stay long. Malcolm started spending more time at the Langston Holdings headquarters, taking initiative on key decisions. One morning, he walked into Horace's room, adjusted his tie, and dropped a stack of documents on the bedside table. "Dad, you need to rest now. I'll handle the company until you're ready to let go." Horace just nodded. Inside, he was watching, recording. Within days, Malcolm made headlines. He hosted a rebranding gala. Open bars, dancers, high fashion. He bought a new Aston Martin, leaked his own Forbes interview. Bianca drained her trust fund on handbags and spiritual retreats. Derek invested $500,000 in a startup run by an Instagram model named Zara. Meanwhile, Horace grew weaker. He refused to eat, stared blankly at the wall, moaned at night, audible from the hall. He let them think the end was near. But not everyone abandoned him. It was Amara, his middle daughter, the quiet one, the child who never asked for more than she was given. She brushed his hair. She wiped his forehead. She fed him mashed plantains and honey water. And at night, when his fake coughing echoed down the marble halls, she was there, curled on the floor by his bed. "I'm here, Daddy," she whispered, holding his hand. "Even if you forget who I am, I won't forget who you are." One night she walked into her mother's room, eyes red from crying. "Mom, let's fly Dad to Switzerland. There might still be hope." Lorraine scoffed. "Sweetheart, don't be naive. If he dies abroad, we lose millions. Hospitals don't refund the dead." Amara turned away, holding back sobs. Meanwhile, Malcolm threw another party. He toasted champagne and told guests, "Soon, everything here will be mine." Upstairs, Horace lay silent, but he heard every word. Personally, this is the part of the story where my stomach knots, because real love doesn't vanish when the cameras go off. It sits, it listens, it suffers with you. And Horace, through the layers of coughs and whispers, began to see that clearly. The next week was chaos. Malcolm marched into the boardroom, declared himself interim CEO, and started firing longtime employees. Mr. Royce, who'd worked for Horace since 1987, stood up. "Shouldn't we wait for official instructions?" "You're fired," Malcolm barked. Miss Lynn, HR manager, tried to object. She was fired too. Word spread. The company began to rot from within. Meanwhile, back home, Lorraine started selling antiques. Bianca started measuring the drapes. Derek called an architect about renovating Dad's library into a lounge. And Amara? She knelt beside her father every morning, whispering hope into his tired ears. They thought he was slipping away. But Horace Langston was very much awake, emotionally exhausted, yes, but more aware than he had ever been. In his weakness, he found clarity, and in his silence, he found power. From his dimly lit guest room, Horace listened through the cracked door as his family unraveled. Each whisper, each selfish act was a stitch in the tapestry of betrayal. The irony? He wasn't even sick. One afternoon, the family lawyer, Elias Dorsey, arrived unannounced. He climbed the stairs quietly and knocked once before entering. Amara had just stepped out to heat a towel. Elias leaned close. "Sir," he whispered, "David sold the Midtown estate and the Roselawn Vineyard. But don't worry, I use trusted proxies. The paperwork is safe in my vault. He thinks he sold it to outsiders. But in truth, you still own it." Horace's eyes stayed shut, but a tear slipped from the corner. Not from pain, but from sorrow. "My children are tearing each other apart, Elias," he said hoarsely. "And for what?" Downstairs, war was breaking out. Derek had just learned that Malcolm secretly sold one of the flagship hotels, the Ivory Crown. "You did what?" Derek roared. "You were sitting on your hands," Malcolm shouted back. "At least I'm trying to save the company." Bianca jumped in, slamming her iPad on the table. "You idiots! You're both destroying everything. That land in Palm Springs was mine." "That land," Malcolm snapped, "was Dad's. And he's about to die, remember?" Amara entered just in time to hear that line. She froze. Her voice shook. "Is that how you talk about your father? A man still breathing upstairs?" Malcolm shrugged. "Let's not pretend. He's not coming back." Amara's voice cracked. "But I stayed. I wiped his face. I held his hand while you popped champagne." Bianca rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, spare us the hero act." Amara whispered, "You'll understand one day. Maybe when someone pretends to love you the way you pretended to love him." And with that, she turned away, while the others went right back to fighting. The mansion became a battlefield. Lorraine, the once elegant matriarch, had begun sneaking out at night. Amara noticed she wore perfume now, new lipstick, younger clothes. Then came the shocker. One afternoon, Lorraine strutted into the living room with a tall, handsome man in his early 30s. "This," she announced, "is Ben. He'll be my personal driver from now on." Malcolm did a double take. "You're what?" "My driver," Lorraine repeated with a sly grin. Bianca smirked. "More like your boyfriend." Derek said nothing, but the disgust on his face was obvious. Ben moved into the staff quarters. But everyone knew he wasn't there for driving, and Horace didn't know yet. That night changed everything. Amara couldn't sleep. Around midnight, she went downstairs to get water and noticed the living room lights were on. She followed faint laughter to the back of the house, toward the servants' quarters. What she saw made her stop breathing. There, through the half-open door, was her mother, sitting on Ben's lap, laughing, kissing. "Mom!" The door slammed open. Ben jumped. Lorraine gasped. Amara trembled. You're cheating on Dad? While he's upstairs dying?" Lorraine fixed her gown and hissed, "Lower your voice!" Amara's fist clenched. "He loved you. He gave you the world. And you give him this? You think I'm made of stone?" Lorraine snapped. Do you know what it's like to be ignored for years? To feel like furniture in your own house? No, Amara said coldly. But I know what it's like to watch your family rot while the one person who gave you everything gets abandoned. She turned to Ben. Get out. Ben stammered. Get out now. Ben grabbed his shoes and bolted. Amara turned to her mother, tears in her eyes. You're no different from the rest of them. The next morning, Amara packed a small bag. She went to Horace's room and said softly, We're leaving, Daddy. I'm taking you home. To the village. He blinked slowly. That evening, the mansion gates opened quietly, unnoticed by the rest of the family. The old Bentley pulled away from the city and headed into the countryside. Amara took her father back to his roots, back to where character mattered more than cash. The village of Esimu welcomed them like royalty. Word spread fast. Chief Langston is here. He is sick. Come pray. Villagers gathered with palm wine, fruits, and native herbs. Elders sat in circles, heads bowed. Children knelt respectfully. One elder woman placed a gourd in Horace's hand and said, You gave me money to send my son to school. We have not forgotten. Another man added, You paid for the community hall. We will stand by you now. That night, a local herbalist named Papa Zeke was summoned. He entered Horace's room, looked into his eyes, and said calmly, You are not dying. I can see it. I'm not, Horace admitted, but I needed to see who loved me for me, not for what I could give. Papa Zeke smiled. Ah, a wise test. Horace nodded. Only one passed. Days passed. Peace returned. Horace began walking again. His eyes had clarity. His soul, though bruised, was healing. One evening under a mango tree, he told Amara everything. I was never sick, he confessed. Amara froze. You? What? I needed to know who would stay when there was nothing to gain, who would kneel beside me when I couldn't rise. Tears filled her eyes. All this time, it was a test? Horace took her hand. And you passed. Meanwhile, back in the city, the mansion was collapsing, figuratively and emotionally. Malcolm couldn't pay the staff. Derek couldn't secure new investors. Bianca began selling jewelry just to pay her bills. And Lorraine? She'd fallen into silence after Amara's confrontation. Ben never returned. The house was quiet, tense, cold. Then one evening, a car pulled into the driveway. And what happened next would shake every wall of that mansion. The Langston estate hadn't felt this dead in years. No laughter, no music, not even the sound of cutlery at dinner. Just whispers, suspicion, regret. Derek rarely left his room. Bianca barely posted on Instagram. And Malcolm? He spent most of his days hiding behind spreadsheets, pretending he still had control. But then came the shock. One sunny afternoon, the mansion gates creaked open. A long black car rolled in slowly. The guards looked up and froze. Horace Langston stepped out, not in a wheelchair, not coughing, not limping. He stood tall, steady, sharp. Amara stepped out beside him, holding a briefcase and his cane, more symbolic now than necessary. The housekeeper gasped. Sir, you're walking? Horace simply nodded. Where are they? Inside the house, chaos erupted. Bianca screamed, Daddy! Derek dropped his coffee. Malcolm stood paralyzed at the bottom of the staircase, mouth open. Lorraine came rushing down in heels, lipstick smeared, and nearly tripped when she saw him. Horace? I thought... You thought wrong, Horace said, voice calm but colder than winter. Then he walked straight past them, up the stairs and into his master bedroom. Not a word more. Inside the house, chaos erupted. Bianca screamed, Daddy! Derek dropped his coffee. Malcolm stood paralyzed at the bottom of the staircase, mouth open. Lorraine came rushing down in heels, lipstick smeared, and nearly tripped when she saw him. Horace! I thought... You thought wrong, Horace said, voice calm but colder than winter. Then he walked straight past them, up the stairs and into his master bedroom. Not a word more. Let's pause here for a second. Imagine thinking someone is moments away from death, then watching them walk in stronger than ever. What would you feel? Relief? Shame or fear? For the Langstons, it was all three. That night, the family gathered awkwardly in the living room. No one sat too close. Eyes darted, throats cleared, feet shuffled. Then came a knock. Mr. Elias Dorsey entered, briefcase in hand. Behind him, another surprise. Two uniformed security men. "Good evening," Horace said as he stepped into the room. He wore a simple gray suit. No tie, no fanfare, just purpose. "I asked Mr. Dorsey to bring some things," he said, lifting a black folder. "And I brought something too." From under his arm, he pulled out a small black box, pressed a button. The screen on the wall lit up. Video footage played, taken from hidden cameras in his bedroom. Clips of Derek counting documents when he thought Horace was asleep. Malcolm talking on the phone about selling the hotel. Bianca muttering insults while scrolling through his financial records. And worst of all, Lorraine sneaking out and kissing Ben. Gasps filled the room. Lorraine screamed, "That's illegal!" "You spied on us?" Horace raised a hand. Number I watched. There's a difference. He stood still, letting the silence suffocate them. "Now," he began, "let me tell you the truth. I was never sick, never dying. The diagnosis was a lie. The weakness? An act. I wanted to see what would happen if I couldn't give you anything. If I became a burden. And now. I know." He turned to Lorraine. "You brought another man into my home, into my bed by extension. After all the loyalty I gave you, you have 24 hours to leave this house. Horace, please." "No." He pointed to the guards. "Escort her upstairs. Let her pack. She leaves tonight." Lorraine broke into sobs. Bianca covered her face. Then Horace turned to his sons. "Malcolm, you sacked employees who helped build this empire. You threw parties while I died. You even tried to fire Mr. Royce, a man who once saved my company from bankruptcy. Derek, you sold my vineyard, behind my back. You spent it on a woman who never knew your middle name. You both wanted the throne, but you didn't know how to earn it." He turned to Mr. Dorsey. "Effective immediately, remove both of them from all company accounts. Freeze access, strip titles." "Dad, please," Derek begged. "You still have money," Horace said. "You made sure of that. Use it to build your own." Malcolm fell to his knees. "What about the company?" "It's not yours anymore." Then Horace turned to Bianca. "You mocked my illness. You counted my funeral flowers before I even closed my eyes." Bianca sobbed. "Daddy, I was scared. I didn't know." "You'll inherit nothing. For now," Horace said. "You want a place in this family? Earn it." Then his voice softened. Just slightly. He turned to Amara, the only one still seated, still silent. "The only one who stayed?" The room froze. Horace smiled. "From today, Amara is the new CEO of Langston Holdings. The mansion, the estates, the legacy, it's hers." Bianca gasped. Malcolm shouted. Derek stormed out. But Horace didn't flinch. Let the world see what happens when loyalty meets wisdom. 1 year later, Langston Holdings had tripled its profits. Former employees returned. Productivity soared. Awards came in. Amara, now CEO Langston, ran the boardroom with grace and precision. And Horace? He sat quietly in a corner office, watching it all. The man who once faked death had given birth to something greater. Clarity. Final reflection. This story isn't just about betrayal. It's about how power reveals character and how absence reveals love. Horace Langston faked his sickness to uncover the truth. But what he found was more than disappointment. He found Amara, and through her, he found peace. If this story moved you, let us know where you're watching from. Have you ever felt forgotten like Horace, or held strong like Amara? Leave a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. The next story drops soon, and trust me, you don't want to miss it.